We've talked about Parshat Tetzaveh, but this Shabbat, of course, is as well also the Parshat Zachor, where in advance of the holiday of Purim, where Haman Agagi comes and tries to destroy the Jewish people, that we read about the original attack of Amalek, or I shouldn't say we don't read of the original attack of Amalek, we would read Moshe telling the Jewish people that they need to remember Amalek, what they did, and we need to blot them out from Parshat Ki Tetzei. And along with that, we also read perhaps the most epic story about a battle with Amalek, a battle that occurs during the time of the first king of Israel, King Shaul, Saul, the king of Israel, from the tribe of Benjamin. And obviously, when we talk about Amalek, we talk about them very much in regards to the tribe of Benjamin, to the tribe of Binyamin. Binyamin, to start, is not present. He's not yet born when Yaakov meets with his brother Esav in the beginning of Parshat Vayishlach. Yaakov is frightened to meet up with Esav, and he divides his camp. He sends presents. He tells everybody where they're going to run away. He prays to God. At that point, he has 12 children, 11 sons, and his daughter Dinah. Binyamin is not yet born. Binyamin is born after that. And it's almost as if there's sort of this idea that Binyamin misses the opportunity for Yaakov and Esav to make up. And later on, the struggles with Amalek are going to be led by people from the tribe of Binyamin. We have a close second to Binyamin. The person who fights them initially is Yehoshua, who's a descendant of Ephraim or a descendant of Yosef. But the battle that we have, Saul is a king, and he's from the youngest of all of the tribes, the tribe of Benjamin, the tribe of Binyamin. And in the Megillah, Mordechai is an Ish Yemini. Mordechai is from the tribe of Benjamin. I don't think it just means that he's right-handed. It means that he is from the tribe of Benjamin. He's an Ish Yemini who fights against Haman Ha'agagi, right? It doesn't say specifically that Haman is from Amalek, but Agagi seems to be a saying, whether it's genetic or whether it be based upon ideas, a descendant of Agag. Agag is the king of Amalek who is attacked by Shaul, and Agag is the king who Shaul spares until the next day when Shmuel the Navi comes and kills him. So first point is that there's something about Binyamin, the smallest of all tribes, the youngest of the tribes, being the one more than any of the others who has to battle against Amalek. Perhaps part of the reason is because Shaul is mistaken and messes up. Maybe that's part of the reason why his, I don't know if they're his direct descendants, but later on his fellow tribesmen, Mordechai and his niece Esther, have to be the ones who attack, who kill Shaul. Now, a couple of other things to mention about the Haftorah. There are some, really wonderful things or intriguing things. I don't know if they're wonderful. Start with this. We always think of the Davidic dynasty. We think of Shmuel as the kingmaker. He is the one who anoints Shaul as the first king and the one who anoints David as the second king. But his relationship with those two is very, very different. His relationship with David is seemingly minimal. He shows up at the house of Yishai. He tries to find which one of Yishai's sons will be king. None of them seem to work. They call out the child from the field, pours the oil on him, and he makes him king of Israel. And outside that, we only see really one other situation where where David goes to consult with Shmuel. David's relationship with Shmuel is minimal as far as we can tell in the text. Contrast that with Shaul. Shaul is anointed by Shmuel, who spends a whole evening with him. And Shmuel is constantly going and giving advice, telling Shaul what to do. And it's very, very sad in this Haftorah when Shaul messes up. Shmuel comes, God tells Shmuel after Shaul goes and fights with Amalek and spares King Agag,
and doesn't kill all the tzon. No, it doesn't kill all the sheep. This is from Shmuel Aleph, chapter 15, verse 11. God says to Shmuel, Nichamti ki amlachti et Shaul. I regret that I have made Saul king, ki shav me'acharai v'etvarai lo hikim, because he turned away from my commands, my words, and didn't keep them. Vaychar Shmuel, and this was distressing, very disappointing for Shmuel. Vayzak el Hashem kol halayla, and he goes the entire night and begs God, cries to God to spare Shaul, not to punish him. Perhaps we don't know exactly what he negotiates, but there's a real strong relationship between Shmuel and Shaul, and it's very, very disappointing for Shmuel when Shaul, when he's told that Shaul is going to sit on the throne, but as far as God's concerned, his reign is over. Shaul feels this loss of Shmuel at that point and feels it even more so after Shmuel dies, and he conjures up Shmuel in a dream, if you remember that chapter just a few chapters later. So that's one thing, just interestingly, about it. A second thing about it, a few different things about it, is one of the things, it's sort of an interesting contrast between the Megillah and Shaul, and the contrast is not exact because they come from very different situations. But if we think about Esther in the Megillah, her real name is Hadassah, which says Hadassah, he Esther. She's called Esther because she's a secret. She's hidden. She's not telling anybody what her name is. She's hiding who she is, what her name is. And this is a pattern in the Megillah of sort of being very deliberate. Esther is very, very deliberate. Mordechai makes sure that she's very, very deliberate and careful in how she speaks when she speaks. She's sort of a master of speech and silence. Some could say that she reads the room very, very well. She doesn't reveal at first who she is. She doesn't tell anybody that she's a Jewish. She's just a girl like every other girl who has been called up because she's attractive and maybe the king wants to make her the next queen. She doesn't say anything. She refuses to say anything. The only time she says, finally, starts to reveal and starts to talk to the king is when Mordechai pushes her. It's the pivotal moment, it seems, in the Megillah, pivotal moment where the decree comes out. Haman is going to kill all of the Jews, and all of the Jews are crying and wailing and wearing sackcloth, and Esther is the only one who's not. Mordechai is walking around the palace, outside the palace complex, in his sackcloth and ashes, looking like a bum, and she sends him a message, how can you dress like that? I think we talked about it last year a little bit. There's one way I like to think of the palace of Achashverosh. It's very immature. It's all wine and parties and drunkenness. There's no reality. They don't deal with the reality. You can't go there if you're mourning. You can't go there. It's like this facade that there's no sadness. There's no difficulty in the world. So Mordechai can't go near the palace in clothing like that, wearing mourning. She tells him to change his clothing. He then tells her about the decree and why they are mourning and asks her to go do something about it. She refuses. Achashverosh has not called me into his chamber in 30 days, and if I show up, likely I will be killed for showing up without permission. He then says to her, sends her the message. I'll paraphrase, you think you were chosen because you were the prettiest? You think you were chosen because you were the most alluring? You think you were chosen because you have the best personality? Perhaps you were chosen for this moment when you could come and stand up for the Jewish people. And if you don't, just know somebody else will, and you will be long and forgotten from our people. You will fade into history, is what he says to her, prompting her to recognize and finally to go and act. But look at what she does, and this is where the comparison with Shaul will come even a little bit more. What she does is she says, okay, this is what I'm going to do. We're going to fast for 3 days. Please have the Jewish community gather and fast for 3 days, and then I will go and speak to Achashverosh. And she goes and she speaks to Achashverosh. And what she does here is very significant and important. She's going to speak to Achashverosh on behalf of the Jewish community, not on behalf of herself. And in fact, you know the basic story, right? She has the first party. She doesn't tell him what she wants. She has the second party. Finally, the second party, when Achashverosh is wondering, why am I having a meal with my wife and my the most important man besides me? What sort of coup d'etat are they plotting? Are they planning? What are they doing? She finally reveals that Haman is the one who wants to kill her people, and she's saying it because all of her people will be killed. Even if they were put into slaves, she wouldn't bother the king, but because all of her people are killed. When Shmuel shows up at the battlefield the day after Shaul is victorious, Shaul is building a monument to his victory. I'll read to you from the verse. Let's see if I can find it. It's the very next verse after the verse we read. Vayashkem Shmuel lekrat Shaul baboker. Shmuel got up early in the morning to greet Shaul. Vayugad l'Shmuel lemor ba Shaul haKarmela. And it was told to Shmuel, Saul went to the Carmel. Vihine matziv lo yad, where he erected a monument for himself. Then he left and went down to the Gilgal. So Shmuel comes to greet him. And what is Shaul doing? He won this battle against Amalek. He's building a monument to himself. He sees Shmuel, and what does he do? He says, I have been victorious. Did you see? He says, I have Baruch Hashem Hakimoti ad Dvar Hashem. I have fulfilled God's commandment, is what Shaul says to Shmuel. Shaul speaks at the wrong time. In a sense, is impulsive. And he's speaking and he's building a monument to himself and his successes. Esther recognizes when to be silent, is a little bit guided by Mordecai as to how to be silent. And when she finally gets the courage and has the bravery to speak to Achashverosh, when does she do it and how does she do it? She doesn't do it for herself. She would be safe in the palace. Nobody knew that she was a Jew. What does she do it? She does it for the community, for Klal Yisrael, for the people of Israel, not to save her own skin, not to save herself. And so there's, in a sense, there are many ways of understanding the Megillah, comparing it to this Haftorah, again, the Binyamin, but just one slightly different way of looking about it is sort of the tactics, the silence and the speech of Esther, when to speak, when to be silent, and why to speak. Am I speaking for myself? Shaul was defeating Amalek, was told to attack Amalek because this was a battle that sort of was going on forever. We know it all too well in our time. Spend 5 minutes on social media and see all the fans of the Nazis that are on there these days. It's not that hard to find. Stay away from it if you're smart. Shaul makes it about himself. He builds a monument. He goes and he talks about how he kept the word of God. Esther does just the opposite. It's not about her. It's about saving the Jewish community and the Jewish people. So another way of sort of looking at this, the Megillah and these stories in the Haftorah is that contrast of reading the room, being very deliberate, being very careful, know when speech is warranted, and make sure that it's not really about yourself. It's really, if you're, trying to stand up, make sure that it really is for the Jewish people, just like Esther and Mordecai do in the Megillah, making up for the mistake that Shaul seems to do in our Haftorah.